Yes. Hey, my fellow bankers. This is your host, Nafis Sparrow, the representative of Benny Banks, and we're back again with an exclusive interview with a special and distinguished guest, Ibn Rainey from NR Internationals. And hopefully, you guys tune in to this particular podcast at Bank with Benny Podcast. And we just want to remind you of a profound statement of Benny Banks taken from his Blueprint for Success. He mentioned that the mind possesses many gateways, which thousands of thoughts travel through per second, romantically giving birth to the imagination, creating an atmosphere where dreams become reality. Only in the world of dreams does the dreamer succeed. How you doing today, my distinguished guest?
Excellent introduction. I love it already. I'm doing great. Every day I wake up, I'm good, and I strive to be greater every day. All praise to the
Uh,
Most High.
exactly. And I want to thank you, man, for tuning in and agreeing to coming on and allowing us to interview you and
Thank
a lot
you.
of things that you got on. I appreciate that. Can you begin by starting by introducing yourself, who you are, so that our audience can know who we're talking to and who we're interviewing?
Absolutely. This is Nald Nald Rainey, NR Management and Promotions, NR International Radio Show and Podcast, Corporation Clothing Company. I've been a ward committeeman for the past 4 years, elected by the public within my particular ward and community. Um, Pretty much elected official for the city of Philadelphia, assisting people such as the congressman, the state senator, the council people at large, etc.
You've been very active, very busy, I see. That's a good thing,
Striving to be every day we have to be.
right? Can you give us a little bit, just a little bit of your background? We would definitely, the audience would definitely like to tap into a little bit of your background, brother. Can you share that with us?
Absolutely. In regards to my business uh, in general, just to start off with the business aspect, I've worked with everything from parties, plays, pageants. I've assisted in the inauguration of you know, one of our past presidents. Actually shook hands with him twice. Was one of the first ones to bring out several different artists and assist in the bringing out of several different artists, entertainers within the city of Philadelphia, and bring them to the Delaware Valley area, such as quick list of name drops: Wale, Rico Love, K Camp, Migos. Um, Even was the first one to bring Remy Ma home when she first came home as well. Um, and ironically, this was around the same time in which I myself was also just coming home.
Okay. Yes. So you was able to accomplish a lot. What can you explain to us? What is NR International or Management Money Team and Promotions? What is that? And how did you come up with this idea or conceptualize this idea?
Well, actually, it's a long story. To first begin, NR actually started off with being a quick acronym for a new reign. And what I mean by a new reign is that I always consider myself as royalty, as this is what my mother placed within me. She uh, tried her best to make sure that I had the highest esteem growing up. I had self respect, self worth, self value, and therefore we can't show and promote anything else to the world except but our own royalty. So new reign was the fact that because I stumbled, because when I was a teenager, I was incarcerated for a considerable amount of years. When I came home, I said to myself, I'm going to start off brand new, and this is going to be a new reign. Now, the ironic part is that someone beat me to the punch in regards to copyright. But however, in regards to the name in which many people already know me as, which is Null, and my last name coming from my grandfather, who was also highly respected within the North Philadelphia area. His last name was Rainey. So therefore, based off of that, it only fit right. Nald Rainey, management and promotions. And from there, I always had a motto which was only international accounts. So therefore, that international happened to just fit in perfectly in our international, global, never local, North Philly to the rest of the world. You may come from a particular locality. You don't have to stay there. You don't have to remain there.
So what do this company that you are the CEO and the owner of, what do y'all actually do? What's some of the services and different things that y'all offer?
Well, everything from photography, videography, um, artist management, artist promotion. Um, Even these days, if a person needs CGI, movable graphics, and animation, we have people who take care of that. Um, to pretty much say everything which I've already touched on, we've done everything from documentaries, from assisting in web series. We've been on the set of major motion pictures, and I mean, it's everything is as long as I'm continuing to grow, and the people around me are continuing to grow, then I mean this should be a household name. The same way as you have Sony, the same way you have Warner Brothers, the same way that you have Universal, and so many other distribution companies in which have been around for years and years. You know,
And I just
we
want
should
to, I just want to,
should have our own.
I just want to interject right there.
Yes,
You were just displaying is known as a winning attitude, and I like that confidence. And I think it's very important that as Benny Banks, me being his representative, was explaining in his blueprint that confidence is definitely very important to have, especially when you're pursuing your dream, because you have to believe in it first. And I like the winning attitude that you have, that you're displaying, that even though these companies might be big, you know, but you are just as big, or you will be a household name, and I think that's very brilliant. Also, what I wanted to ask you was, I noticed in the beginning of your introduction, you mentioned that you are a podcast as well as a radio station. Can you elaborate on that for us, about your radio station and about your podcasting, so that the audience can know how to
absolutely.
tune to you?
Well, first and foremost, everyone can tap in and tune into NR International. On there, I'm known as Mr. Make It Rain, Nald Rainey, King Rain, of course, to all. Come back, King. No matter what happens, we always come right back to get back to it. When it comes down to the YouTube and our international, Instagram and our international, we started doing about 2 seasons worth of the NR International radio show and podcast. Um, we were connected with a local internet radio station, which that even was to move on to become a 17 country platform where, you know, all praises due to the Most High. We were given the invite to jump onto a platform which would be not only broadcast in the 17 different countries, but also have the translations. And this was actually moving up to New York. So, in our international radio show and podcast at this moment in time will restart in 2022. So, stay tuned for that. To answer your question in regards to the winning personality, I would say that a person has to know themselves. You have to know if you are an introvert, extrovert, if you are a person who, maybe socially awkward. Some people may not have the ability to articulate words. Some people may not have the ability to speak well. Some people, as myself, you know, ironically, I was speaking about this last night to a person who didn't quite understand it or realize it, but I used to have a speech impediment. I used to stutter a lot when I was younger. And it was actually not for the sake of not knowing what I wanted to say, but for the fact that my mind was always clicking to go so fast. And also, English was not my first language. So to be able to say what I wanted to say, I always had to think before I talk. And growing up, it was kind of hard for me. I wasn't
And
to speak the way how I wanted to say, speak what I wanted to say, but I will always, as time went on.
And I see
That's,
that you didn't allow that, and the challenges that might have presented to you,
mm,
growing up. You didn't allow it to stop you or block you from moving towards pursuing your dream because of the impediment that you were raised with or that you
mm.
have. So, what were some of the things that you used to motivate yourself and encourage yourself to keep going, even though you might have not been the most well-spoken person, or that you had this impediment? What helped you, push forward?
Again, it's knowing, and I'm not just saying it's a person having um just having a self-talk where they're just saying something but they don't believe it. I'm talking about in regards to you actually knowing and believing who you are, having knowledge of who you are, and knowing that you're here for a reason, that it's your purpose to be here to be something great. And at the moment, especially when you're younger, and that doesn't necessarily mean age, but it also may mean maturity. Like you may think that at this moment in time, I've always been who I am, but it hasn't been maybe to the comparison of other people who may be stars, celebrities, and things of that nature. But you're saying to yourself, I know, I know that I'm here, but you don't have aspirations. For me, I always known and have always aspired to be greater. I've always said to myself, if I'm going to do anything, I'm going to be the best at it. And that came from my martial arts. That came from my boxing. That came from, even in our international. It actually began as a dream that um, myself and about five other companions of mine, we were involved into entertainment as youth. You know, everyone wanted to have a record label. Once you saw people like Master P and Sean P Diddy Combs and everyone else, and pop up on the scene, and it's like they actually making money out of this. So we talking about the era where it wasn't cool to rap, but myself personally, I just knew I could be able to keep up. I always felt the other people within the crew was a little bit nicer, but I was the one who would end up promoting. I would go to Frank Bank and go down to Delaware Ave, some of the already established record labels within our city, go down to Sigma Sound and drop off different mixtapes and connect with some of the DJs, and it started from that. Even from the point where, because of the certain runarounds that I was doing at a young age, club dancers and club illusions already knew who we were and were saying, you could come down at any given time. It's yours. We're going to let you have the stage. And that constantly continued to manifest itself. And even at the time period where I didn't even understand it.
So, what you said a little bit earlier, just to roll back, you were
Mm-hmm.
touching on some of the things that Benny Banks describes in regards to. And by the way, guys, this deposit is really a continuation of another deposit, and it's just adding on to which is ideas have values. And Ibn Rainey is showing us that his idea, and he understood the magnitude of his idea, that it actually had value. Benny Banks has a concept that he expresses a lot throughout his blueprint, and I want you to try to see if you can, if you relate to this somehow within your journey of establishing your dream. That he mentions how ideas is really the true currency, and
Mm.
that you know
Absolutely.
the mind frame that you have, the outlook that you have is where your richness is, your perspective is, you know what I mean? As they say, richness is a state of mind. And that
Mm-hmm.
if you recognize what you have as true currency, that you're inherently already great, you'll be able to project that outwardly to others. I mean,
Absolutely.
what can you relate to this at all in any way of you pursuing your dream?
Of course. So, well, technically, dealing with artists and dealing with entertainment, we say that there's what you hold is intellectual property. So if you recognize, like the same way how you have real estate, the same way how you may have watches and jewelry, all the watches and jewelry, if this is your business, starts off with your intellectual property. It starts off with your mind. It starts off with the fact that, and I pointed up here because this is where the storage takes place, but really We're talking about the mind here. So with this right here, in connection with your mind, with your brain, with the storage, the information that you are able to collect, then once you bring that into action, you can achieve whatever you believe in. You can achieve, by permission of the Most High, you can achieve anything and everything, and you can get over your obstacles because you believe that they aren't really obstacles. So there's an old saying that says the true wealth is self-contentment. So when we look at richness, when we look at the actual ability to manifest wealth from any idea, let's look at McDonald's. McDonald's started off about maybe 60, 70, about 70 years ago, right? Now it was just an idea. When we look at all the other names in which I just mentioned, they were just ideas. And it came from one person or perhaps 2 or 3 people. But then people who also understood what their goal was, what their mission was, what their purpose was, they connected with them and said, you know what? Make your stocks public. We want to buy into your stock. Build a bigger brand and franchise it. We're going to help you out in regards to this. Until finally now, what they say, over 7 billion sold in regards to McDonald's, So what makes me think that, especially growing up with the esteem and the self-respect and the honor that my mother instilled in me, that I could do whatever that I put my mind to, what would make me think that I can't be better than this guy who came from out of nowhere,
And that's that winning attitude.
And
That's
not
the attitude.
the competition, the competition isn't necessarily with him, but it's against myself. Just like being a boxer, you're not actually fighting your opponent, you're fighting yourself, because anytime you get hit, you got to say to yourself, why was I not fast enough? Why was I not quick enough? Why can't I register that he was going to do this, and every time he telegraphs his punches, he does this, he does that, and I'm not catching it? So really, it's self-mastery.
Exactly. Self-mastery. It's practice in regards. You practice. Like, I know next time,
exactly.
I know how, it means preparing, you're making that preparation. And I thank you for adding that in. And I see that you're a banker with being kind of hard here, even in that regard, because that's what, when I came across the blueprint myself, I was like, okay, how do I spread this to the world? This concept of that you're already rich, and your ideas is your bank, and you know what I'm saying. And I see guys like you that have already been doing it, man. You've been such a big inspiration even to myself, and I see you been working diligently. As you mentioned, I'm going to ask you about the two as well, as your activist. As you mentioned, some of the things you're doing with different politicians and officials, city officials within the city itself. How do that play into everything that NR stands for? How did you develop going into that direction?
Well, to be honest with you, again, some things are placed within our lives, and we don't understand exactly what does it mean, right? Now, I've had people who were very prominent figures within the city of Philadelphia who watched me grow up. Even to one of my nicknames, it comes from Marcus Garvey III.
Okay.
So there has been, people who actually watched me grow up, and maybe I, in my young state of mind, didn't know or even care who they were. But certain things of politics just happened to be around that was able to mold me of understanding later on that this is how things work. But it wasn't ever my ambition. I've never placed myself on the ballot. It was the people who placed me on the ballot. It was those of my neighborhood who said, this is who we want as the committeeman. And they brought me in, and pretty much when it was down to the pollings and dealing with registration, etc.
Do you feel complete? Do you get any type of reward or feeling or pleasure out of servicing others? I mean,
every day. But I want you to finish your statement. But I just want to say every day.
So every day you get a reward out of it. I mean, it's nice you mentioned. I know that Booker T. Washington was mentioning a statement similar to that effect, where as though helping and inspiring others is it's more is worth more than the economic, and certain things like that. And he actually preaches a lot about how morals and integrity is actually, what I'm saying, is that which brings about that success that you want. And I was just sitting here thinking that you being a part of things that can service the community and being part of and doing projects, and I know you've been working with the youth a lot too. As you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned before, you're working with a lot with the youth. So you're giving back. That's a sort of way of, fulfilling, feeling a fulfillment or compensation. What
Yeah.
would you say is the true compensation in pursuing your dream? What would be your answer to that?
I mean, to be the most honest with just that question alone, I can do a lot for myself, and I've always done a lot for myself. But there's nothing that's more that gives back more towards the heart, my heart. I can't speak on anyone else but myself. But there's nothing that gives back more towards my heart than to be able to do for others, to be able to give to others, to recognize that I've left an imprint, a positive imprint on someone else's life. And this is something in which I've known even since a teenager, that you can leave negative ripples, you can leave, negative marks, and you never know when it's going to come back. You never know when those things are going to affect you. And personally, I don't want that. I don't want to, some people say karma. I don't want to have to deal with the karma of something that's taken place 20 years ago, and I'm still having to deal with those results.
We're dealing
So
with the consequences
the
of actions that
consequences,
you have.
exactly.
I,
So
I, I understand.
so just to understand, like, the fact of being, and I will never sugarcoat of being an angel or being anything of that nature. When I was young, yes, I was a youth doing young things with a young mind, that even then I wanted to be the best of the best, and maybe doing, some of the wrong things. But at the same time, these things in which I realized, even then I realized it shouldn't be. So I began my transition even before prison, on wanting to work on myself, seeking to get to graduate and go to college, which unfortunately it never transpired, as far as in that basic training of 18 graduation, etc. I had to do it all, and I continue to do it all even within prison. So the thing is that being
Someone,
being just to mention this real quick, being that I went to jail at early age, this became my motivation.
hmm,
This became my motivation of working with the youth specifically,
okay,
and
yeah.
also assisting a lot of the people who are within jails, who a lot of people be surprised how many people are in jail and did not do the crimes in which they were convicted of.
Hmm.
So I
Wrong-
came I
Wrongful
came with
convictions.
purpose, and that purpose is, I can't allow for people to stay in jail who don't deserve to be there, and I can't allow for another generation of youth to be placed in prison at 18 years old or die at 19 years old.
Hmm. Nice point. So I was getting ready to ask you that. That was my next question. What
Okay.
is the advice that you give to the youth that you come in contact with? Because I know you do youth services as well. So what is the advice that you give the youth in terms of trying to help them out? And do you believe that if they were to pursue their dreams or realize that their ideas have value, would it help them in their predicament?
Well, the first thing I would say is that not everybody is for everyone. Not everything is for everybody. So the only ones in which I'm able to assist are those who it's been placed in their heart that I'm the one that they were seeking. May not be even consciously that they were seeking for an old head, they were seeking for someone who was of my temperament, but there's people of different temperaments, and they're going to reach those who connect with them. But for me, all I did was just give out genuine energy, and giving out that genuine energy, telling them the things in which, like, if I know their lives, if I know, if they open up and tell me who it is that they really are, not the mask they're putting on, not the things in which they show other people, but they tell me who they really are, then the first thing which I'm able to ask them is, well, what do you want to do with yourself? And I look at it from, a management position, and I say, well, if you have this skill, why don't you do this? Or if you have that particular skill, then why don't you do that? Or how about I introduce you to this person or that person, and then see how far you go with it.
Mm-hmm.
And really, as a older head, OG, whatever people want to decide to say, a mentor, this is old. This is what we're supposed to do. Especially being that we know that this is the next generation. This is the future.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're not, we see the condition of the world today. If we're not going to be the people who's going to correct the right, correct the wrong, and command the right, if we're not going to be the people who's going to bring a better environment, the only thing we're doing is we may not be dooming ourselves, but we may be dooming our own children, because we're being mute shaitans, mute devils, and we're allowing for the rest of the world to be on demon time.
Okay. And that's impactful. So once you get the youth you get this individual to remove all of the masses, all of the hiding and expose themselves, and then this vulnerability that comes out. So then you'll be able to actually reach them at that point.
And that just comes from genuineness.
Okay, and then seeing, so you're saying that the sincere approach,
Mm-hmm.
right temperament, might be that thing that will connect you between you and the youth. And I like the fact that the NR business module is not just all profit, as far as economically or monetarily. I like the fact that it expresses itself to give back in any way that it can. So helping with the youth and doing things within the city, all of that helps out. And I just want to advise the audience that um, it's imperative that you guys recognize that your ideas have value and that you're somewhat special, and you have what it takes to actually make it. You just have to really believe it. And I think that's what this podcast is about, is trying to touch into people and remind them, hey, stop looking outwardly, start looking at what you already have. And by me seeing some of the things that you have done, taking a situation where as though you were incarcerated due to some mistakes that you make in your life in your younger years,
Right.
and taking that time to tap into yourself, into your greatness, and realizing you hit the ground running when you were released, and just say, you know what, this is what I'm going to do, and make a positive change, and then take the positive change that you made, no matter how far you have reached with that positive change, to give back to others. I think that's a success story, brothers and sisters. That's a success story. You know what I'm saying?
It's about being a soldier, and we are at war with those who don't want to see us win. We are at war with those naysayers. We are at war with those who will pretty much want to see us incarcerated, who will want to see us be part of those statistics. I told myself that I will not be. And if anything, I will be of the motivators. I will be of the people who will say, this is what the roller coaster of life looks like. You have your ups, you have your downs, and this is what business looks like. You're going to have your good times, you're going to have your bad times, but as long as you stay on that ride and you keep coasting, you're going to reach the end, and that end will be a beautiful ride, amusement, fun, and you're going to give yourself a pat on the back to recognize that you've overcome your fears, and there's no greater accomplishment than that.
So what was the most challenging thing for you that um, that you had to get you to begin to make the transition that you needed to make from the negative mindset that you had to the positive mindset that you have today? What was the most challenging thing that caused you to go in that direction? What would you say in your life?
Well, that part right there, you have to rephrase the question. I want to completely understand the
Okay.
question before I answer.
What was that defining moment for you in your life that made you want to change course? You had a negative mindset and you started off on the wrong foot, but what was the defining moment to say, you know what, now I want to change and move a little bit more positive in the way that, in the way that I'm moving? Like, what caused you to shift to the positive, pretty much, mindset?
I mean, I would really say that, it was several transitions and stages of development that it began one of the things that I can say is it began with betrayal. Knowing that the negative mindset and having, if you have negativity within yourself, you're going to bring about more frequencies, more energies, more people who have that same negative mindset, because of course they're only matching you. So if your homie, if your best friend, if the person who, the people that you consider as team, if they're doing the same thing that you're doing and is negativity, you're pretty much just setting up your own destruction, your own demise. Because if it's the case in which that negativity continues to grow, and that negativity, doesn't have any scruples, doesn't have any morals, doesn't have any ethics, doesn't have any rules of engagement, eventually those same people that you broke bread with will stab you in your back.
Mm.
So I would say that my transition began when I retook my Shahada. And that was because of the love and the brotherhood that came through the mosque at that time period, where it wasn't about what you have, your status of who you are, what kind of fame you had, whether it be in the streets. It was simply because, based off of a higher principle, I love you, and
Okay, so
that gave me
so faith oriented. So
exactly.
in regards to it, that faith-based thing was that key component for you to make a change or a switch, and
Mm-hmm.
that's good. That's actually good. Most people, they do change via faith, but what about the individuals out there who can listen to your story and they might not be so in tune with faith?
Mm-hmm.
What would be some of your advice that you would give those guys? Say, look, you can stop what you're doing, and you can actually tap into the greatness that you have within inside you, and begin to project some positive changes in your life. What would be, what I'm saying? What would be your advice for those for those type of people?
Well, I mean, I would say if anyone that was actually engaging in, street politics and things of that nature, I would simply say, don't allow it to close your walls in. And those walls can be a casket, or
Mm,
those walls can be doing life in the casket for the living, which is jail.
mm,
So again, like, even though at that time period in my teenage years I was transitioning, I knew where I had to get to with greatness. I still had to deal with what my hands have already set forth. And so therefore I would tell the people, don't get shot. Like, my life could have been taken. I still have raise wounds that comes from headshots, that I would not be here had it been not for a mistake. I still have shrapnel and other things in my arms and legs. And I went to jail for a complete total of 13 years.
mm.
I would never want jail for my worst enemy. And at the same time, I want to see the people live. I want to see the people grow and prosper.
So the
And if I could do it, they
and
can.
the danger that's associated with it would be one of the determining factors you would use to try to motivate them to recognize the greatness what they have in themselves.
Mhm.
And for me, honestly, I know a lot of people always talk about what's going on in the world today, and how can this blueprint of Benny be any significant for this current, the current climate that we're in.
Mhm.
It's on demon time, as you said.
Right.
How can it help? And I realize that a lot of times, a lot of people have low self-esteem of themselves. They don't value themselves. They don't value their thoughts. They don't value what they can bring to the table. And so they begin to play a role that someone else had designed for them. And you had alluded to this a little
Falling
bit
into the trap.
about the wrongful convictions, the jail, you touched on a little bit of the incarcerations and things like that. And I believe, as the representative Benny, and what he says in his blueprint, I believe that if they start to appreciate themselves more and start to
That'll.
realize that they have value and bring their level of self-esteem up and not play a role that someone else designed for them, they'll be able to make a good transition. So I just think that you have more to offer. So getting them to recognize that will be something great for me, and that's what I'm trying to do with this podcast of spreading the Benny message to let you know that look, you have something to offer, instead of you watching other people from the sidelines and seeing people, bask in their success, you have your own journey, your own greatness that you can actually offer to the world and give to the world.
And
Um,
that's what it is.
and I thank you again, man, for coming on and giving us this beautiful, you know, introduction to yourself, what you're doing, beautiful advice and pieces that you gave, sharing with us, part of your journey and things like that. I would love to have you on again as a guest, if, sometimes in the future. And hopefully we can build more, share more different things. Can you
Absolutely.
please let the audience know your handle and how to tap in or connect with you if they want more of what you're offering?
All right. Well, first and foremost, subscribe to the YouTube channel NR International. You can also find me at NR International on IG. You can find me at Nald Rainey with the symbol icon NR NALDRAINEY, Facebook, or the NR Management and Promotions, also on Facebook. And right now, we're tapping into a lot of the we're tapping into other platforms which are self-owned, black-owned. That goes beyond the restrictions of a lot of these, Instagram, Facebook, etc. Because things are getting to the point where we're losing a lot of our First Amendment rights. And so at this moment in time, we are looking into and investing into our own platforms. And that's another thing about my business as well. The corporation clothing company and the corporation mindset, it was all based off of do for self. Everything that we have, everything that we do, we have to own our own. And that goes even down to the clothes that we wear. That goes down to if you have a sneaker, if you have a sneaker fetish, then own the sneaker store. So at this moment in time, since everyone and
In other
everything,
words, invest in yourself, fellas.
yeah,
Sisters, invest in yourself. That
everything
entrepreneurial
digital,
spirit, yeah.
everything digital. So we're working on building these digital platforms as well for us.
So I just wanted to say to you guys, thank you all for listening in and rocking along with us on this particular deposit. Ideas have value, as we see with NR International. Ibn Rainey coming by and stopping by as a special guest, giving us some input and intake on the world. Also, for those who wants to hear the full episode of this onto our podcast, you can. It will be posted up onto our social media platforms such as our Instagram, Bank with Benny, such as our Facebook page, Bank with Benny. You will have it on our YouTube channel for us this video that you can actually tap back into, and we will post up the audio of it. Now we're going to let you guys ride out to the outro. We thank our brother again, Ibn Rainey, for coming in, and I thank you guys for tapping in with Benny.
Peace to all.
Can you hear that? You can sense that, right? Can you taste it? Are you experiencing it? That's greatness, my friend. That's greatness what you're tasting. That's greatness what you're experiencing. That's greatness what you're feeling. That's greatness what you're sensing. And if you want to wake that sleeping giant, that genius that lies within you, and make sure you stay tuned to the next deposit. Thank you for banking with Benny.